Hey, this is David. We're going to change the oil in 2 Toyota forklifts today. I say change the oil, we're going to do the maintenance. And there's a little bit of a video about loading the grease gun. And we're going to try to cover all the things you need to do. Some people used to refer to it as preventive maintenance. We don't refer to it as preventive maintenance, we just refer to it as maintenance. So we're going to change the oil, we're going to check the fluids, we're going to blow out the radiator, we're going to clean it up, and we're going to check the charging, and we're just going to do the things that's necessary to keep this forklift running smoothly. Alright, here we are. We're going to attempt to load the grease gun. We have unscrewed the grease gun, the top. We've extended the rod out the back of the grease gun. We're going to take the cap off of the grease insert, and then we're going to insert it in this way. And we're going to peel off the metal part. Then we're going to screw the top back on. Sorry for the shakiness. I just wanted to show this for those who didn't really understand. We screw it tight, then we push the rod back down. There we go. So this is our Toyota 8FGCU30. It's a little dusty. Starts very well. We're going to raise the mast a bit. We're going to tilt it back. Sometimes we can place a board under the mast. This block is not quite the right size. We're going to tilt the mast back and then tilt it forward on the block, and it's going to raise the tires in order for us to put the oil pan underneath the motor. Here we have the forklift. We're tilted forward on this block, and this block allowed us to raise the forklift, raise the tire, thus giving us room to put the pan under the forklift. This is a drain plug. It goes without saying, one needs to make sure that the drain plug is the drain plug to the engine and not the transmission. So right now we're draining the oil. Looking over here at the tires, we're seeing that the tires are quite worn, and actually that wheel has an issue. So we're going to recommend to the customer that he gets some new tires soon. There's a good guy in town that puts tires on these forklifts at a reasonable price. But this is a drain plug. It has a little gasket on it, and we used a number 14 millimeter socket to remove it. We're going to drain the oil, we're going to inspect the oil, and then we're going to put the oil aside, put the new oil in, and then put the old oil back in the container that the new oil came in. The oil looks good. We're changing this oil every 3 months. The oil plug has been firmly replaced and tightened, and now we're going to put some good old Pennzoil in here. 4 quarts. 4 quarts of oil going back in here, and then we're going to change the fluid, change the filter, and then we're going to check the fluid level. On this particular forklift, you'll see right here there's these little aluminum pieces, and what this is it's restricting you from putting a larger style oil filter on it. So when you order the oil filter for this particular Toyota forklift, you got to make sure that it's the proper oil filter and that it fits in between these 2 places right here. I had a filter supplier that gave me filters that did not fit in between these 2 pieces right here, and so we had to make sure we had a proper fitting oil filter. So there we have our new Fram oil filter that's hand tight. It's significantly snug, and you know, I got pretty strong wrist and hand, so I'm tightening it pretty tight, but I'm basically tightening it by hand. We're fixing to blow off this engine. We're going to use compressed air, and then we're going to change the oil filter. Here we are checking the dipstick. Make sure we have the proper amount of oil in. Earlier I said oil filter, but next we're going to change the air filter over there. We're making sure we have the proper amount of new oil in this unit. And you always make sure you have a proper oil and filter before you ever start the engine. Okay, we're going to take compressed air and blow off the engine and the radiator. And I'm going to talk before the compressor kicks on, so I'll show you a little bit of it. This is our new air filter element. There's 3 clips holding the cover to this area that holds the air filter. Removing the old air filter, not too bad. Always like to take it and hit it. When I hit it, it tells me how much dirt's falling off. The inside is still clean. It's a little questionable, but be on the safe side, we're putting a new air filter on. This air filter is one of our more expensive products that we're installing today. Oil filter, not so much. Oil, not so much. This air filter is around $30, which is actually inexpensive compared to a dealer, but this is one of the more expensive products that we're installing today. So the air filter goes inside the housing there, plastic housing. Make sure it's pushed in all the way. This cover says top, usually it says top. We're going to place it back like so, and then snap our clips back. So we installed a new air filter. Okay, we have started the forklift and we turn the wheels all the way to one direction, locate the grease fittings, and wipe them off. Once you wipe off the grease fittings, put the grease gun hose firmly on the grease fitting and pump the grease into the fittings, and you can see it come out. When it comes out, you know you have enough, but usually it takes maybe 2 or 3 pumps to get the proper amount of grease in there. Next, we're going to turn the wheels all the way to the other direction, and we're going to access the other grease fittings that we can't access. When we turn the wheels all the way to the other direction, then we'll be able to access the other grease fittings. Here we are going to remove the access cover to the radiator. 2 screws, remove the debris, we'll blow it off some more. We're going to take the cap off and we're going to inspect in there. Now, in order for a system to operate properly, a lot of times there's going to be a little void in the radiator, and your coolant is not always going to be filled to the top of the radiator. So inspect and make sure it has the proper amount of coolant in there. Add some if necessary. Top it off, and if you top it off, the excess coolant would run out this hose into a reservoir. So it's always good to check the coolant, make sure you have a proper level. Okay, we're back under the bonnet. Down here is our stick for checking the transmission fluid. Transmission fluid is good. We're inspecting the battery. We're looking for lots of things, spark plug wires, and make sure the radiator's not clogged up. This is our reservoir for the brake fluid. We've checked that and it's good. You don't want to get any dirt in here when you remove the cap. We're going to clean it up some more, make it look good for the customer. We're checking connections and just a generalization of a good working forklift. Next, we're going to look at the mast. There's lots of things on the mast that need lubrication. We can lubricate the chains. We can lubricate the pulleys under the chains. It's controversial whether or not you want any lubrication on your hoses. Depends on the atmosphere that the forklift is in. This forklift goes inside and outside. So the mast, we're checking the bearings, we're checking the forks, the thickness on the forks to make sure they're not worn down. The carriage, the chains, the hoses, carriage bearings, mast bearings, and hydraulic hoses. Okay, this is another lift, and we're going to be checking the dipstick to get the proper level of oil in the engine. And one thing you want to keep in mind is you add oil to the engine, you want to give it a significant amount of time to make sure it drains to the pan, and you want to make sure that you don't start the engine until the oil has drained completely to the pan. Some of these small engines, the oil can stay in the valve cover for a while, and if you start it too soon, the carburation system will suck it through one of these hoses back into the engine, and it'll try to burn it and make a lot of smoke. Don't ask me how I know that, but you need to wait a significant amount of time for the oil to drain down to the engine, and make sure that your dipstick is wiped very clean. The new oil nowadays is very clear, and so you need a very clean, dry dipstick in order to get the proper level. Polished up 8FGCU25, 8FGCU30. Horn's working. All the controls are working. All the fluids are checked. All the lubrication points are lubricated. Visual checks of all the systems. Safety systems. Safety first. Alright, we're wrapping it up. Polishing it up. Make it look good. Checking out all the controls. Make sure everything's working. We're taking down the hours. Documenting the hours. We have checked all the fluids. These lifts look pretty good. They're fairly new as far as new goes. And we're fixing to submit invoice to the customer. Pay the man.